Hello, good morning.
Hi.
Today is, let me just let this last person in.
The 13th.
Yes, today is Tuesday, April 13th. We're here at CDRC meeting, and our first application is for Haslam, the proposed cemetery at 44 Hillside Avenue. And is Mr. Baum on? I saw him and then he's on.
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Oh, hi. There you are, Paul.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you wanted to start or if you had someone else that wanted to speak first.
No, I can start. All right. So, good to see everybody again, Dan. I'm glad to hear you're doing very well. So,
thank you.
Talk to you. So, we've got our application. We've discussed it at the last meeting. We're not coming in for the burial sites for the rabbis. We're just going straight to the overall plan as we had discussed. We're still fighting time. We're, we filled out a very detailed timeline that we're following to try and keep this track, because we want to get this project done and in as soon as possible, because the need can shortly arise, and we can't time that. So
right.
We've got an application or a request into the county legislature for the county legislature's consent. They have scheduled a public hearing on that for June 1st. We're hoping that we can try and conclude the secret in May, so that the county legislature can vote in June 1st. As you know, we need a variance from the zoning board because the way it's planned, we exceed the maximum development coverage. However, we'd like to discuss that if we were to substitute some of the internal roadway networks with a pervious surface, such as gravel or something else, based upon those sections of the code that I had pointed out to you on what the definition is of a pervious cover and how the planning board can deem it otherwise when they're talking about pervious pavers and pervious pavement. If we were to do something other than asphalt, such as gravel or item 4, or I don't know what else there is, what you use as a road surface, but some sort of road surface that could be deemed to be pervious, so that we wouldn't need a development coverage variance. We'd be very interested in exploring that, but not if it's going to slow us down. I don't want to create levels of confusion that's going to delay us if the easiest thing is just to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. But if this code can be interpreted as such, we'd be interested in exploring that. And then really it's just, how do we get this done as quickly, as effectively as possible? I know we've been in touch with Valerie about the SECRA, so that we wanted to expedite the SECRA review, and obviously the planning board is going to act as lead agency if we're going to do a coordinated review with the zoning board. The planning board is going to have to adopt their notice of intent. They're not going to be able to take any SECRA action for a month. So we'd like to have the be in a position that the next time they convene and they are able to declare themselves lead agency, to actually have all the SECRA review done, so they could declare lead agency, adopt the part 2, adopt the part 3, and make a neg deck. So that's sort of what we're dealing with, and we'd love to hear your input on how we could get this project approved as quickly as possible, dealing with all these various moving parts.
Do you think it would help to point out what was going to go on that site in terms of impact, or the lesser impact?
Well, I certainly think it's going to be a lesser impact, but I mean, I don't think the question is, what can the board waive? Even though it's a lesser impact, and we have a very good argument to say, hey, the impacts that are going to be generated from this project are 1% of the impacts that were going to be generated by another project that was slated for the approval. They still have to look at that 1% impact. So I want to avoid them looking at the 1% impact.
Well, you're assuming having to go to the ZBA.
Right. So I'd be interested in hearing everybody's comments with regard to the application and what sort of issues that you spot with regard to the application and how we can deal with those issues effectively and promptly. Well,
I read your letter from yesterday, but that's as far as I went. I didn't go into the code to see whether or not a legitimate argument could be made. I don't know if Eve or Valerie had an opportunity to do that. So I'm not prepared to speak on that.
How about Lou? What do you think, Lou?
I've taken a look at it. I don't know. I don't see Lou. Where's Lou? There's Lou.
There's in the corner.
Yeah.
I see the top of Lou's head.
That's
Do you want to weigh in on any of that, or should I go ahead?
All he shows.
Valerie, do you want to start? Who wants to start?
It's fine. You can start, and I can talk about what I think we need more information on in terms of seeker and also information on the application itself.
Okay, I just wanted to weigh in on, you'd mentioned that you needed to go to the zoning board for the coverage for that 3%.
Yes.
So yes, that's true. But I also saw under 210-14D, you need to have the buffer with the required dimension of the setback for that zone. And of course, the planning board can weigh in on that and give you some relief, but I would list that as a variance as well. And in terms of the Department of Health, I think it is important that we keep that 100-foot separation distance in accordance with the Table 1 of the Sanitary Code, the New York State Sanitary Code. So if you are intending to put that 100-foot buffer, that takes care of the health department as well. If you're seeking relief from the buffer, then the wells should be located, so at least we maintain the Department of Health separation distance from the wells. And then just in general, I saw the layout plan that was prepared, by the engineer. And, that's just a fine layout plan, but we need the usual, the grading, the stormwater management, the erosion control, any proposed lighting, signage, landscaping around the perimeter, all of the components of a site plan. And that's about it. I guess we mentioned already, it is a special use permit by the planning board, and it's permitted as it's attached to a pre-existing cemetery property. It's abutting a pre-existing cemetery, so that's not a problem.
So the buffer requirement of 210-14D says that we need to provide it where the use may adversely affect the residential character of the neighborhood. So
right.
Is this a use that adversely affects the residential character of the neighborhood? It's a very passive use. We're not building any sort of structures or engaging in any sort of active use like a nursing home or an educational institution or a place of worship. So which I would agree, those uses might tend to unreasonably or adversely affect the residential character. Does this use adversely affect the residential character, I guess is
No, that's why it's left up for the planning board. I mean, I would tend to agree with you, but it's really, that's going to go back to the planning board.
I would add that that sounds like a interpretation that would have to be made by the building inspector as well. If not,
well, it says under special, it's a condition of a special use permit. So this is a special use permit. So, I mean, if Lou wants to make the interpretation, that's, you know, perfectly within his jurisdiction, but it doesn't seem like it needs his interpretation. It seems like the planning board needs to weigh in on what Paul just said and see if it's really imposing upon the residential character of the area. And personally, I tend to agree with Paul. I think not, but I don't know what the planning board will say.
Right.
I get it. I agree. I agree.
Okay.
I have a few things to kind of piggyback on some of the stuff that Eve brought up. So, you know, we did receive the Department of Health comments from Rockland County and also the New York State Public Health Law. I think it would be helpful to have a narrative provided to the planning board, specifically, and this also ties into seeker as well, specifically identifying how your particular project will meet the requirements of the New York New York State Public Health Law, as well as, you know, the 100-foot setback, whether you are going to include that in the overall site plan or not. Also,
Valerie, can I stop you? What section of the New York State Public Health Law are we talking about?
Well, I just want to, in general, right? So if you go to cemeteries, it specifically refers to the New York State Public Health Law to make sure that you're hearing.
New York State Sanitary Code 10 NY CRR 5-1 5-B Table 1.
For the well issue that you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but that law does not apply to cemeteries. It applies to the installation of wells.
No, there's a very specific table that says cemeteries, 100 feet.
Right, and if you disagree with that, right, because I saw your letter back to the Department of Health disagreeing with that, I think then you need to have more information demonstrating why your position is correct.
Okay. Because
if not, what we're going to find in the next couple of months is that the planning board is going to ask, and I will ask, and I'm sure Eve will ask, and that information is provided. So if you want to, I think moving through the seeker process as effectively as possible, you need to make sure that we're all comfortable that what is being proposed will actually adhere to any state and county regulations, especially dealing with locations.
Who actually makes the ultimate determination on this issue?
I think it's your board. I think it's your board because, listen, the county health department can only regulate the wells and septic systems. This is what Dan Miller had told me. So they have no jurisdiction because they don't regulate the cemeteries. They can only regulate the placement of a well that may be adjacent to a cemetery, and their attitude is the well's there first. So you guys now have to stay back from the well. If you were there first, the well would have to stay back from you. So I understand that. We talked about this well issue. We're going to plot a distance of 150 feet from the location of the nearest well, which is on 38 Hillside Avenue. That's the middle lot running along the eastern side of the property by Jeffrey and Susan Phillips. And 100 feet will go somewhat into sections 2, 4, and 6, and we will show that. They have this requirement here that you got to double it, or not double it, 50%. And we've been talking about that 50% requirement, which can be reduced with appropriate mitigation measures. And Dave had said he's going to apply the same mitigation measures that are used in connection with septics, with swales to take the runoff away that the health department has found acceptable for reducing that buffer from the well for a septic system.
Is your client under contract to buy the entire parcel known as Mishkana, Lavier, Yaakov?
My client not only is contracted to, but since this application first came out, has closed and is now the new owner of the property.
Okay.
So we will have to file some sort of amendment indicating that the new owner is the applicant. But other than that, nothing has changed. So
all right. Has that,
at this point.
Has anyone checked with the Tolman Fire Department? We have had other applications somewhat tertiarily related to, and I think I pointed it out to you at one of the previous meetings, to a cemetery and providing emergency ingress, egress, and something that comes to mind for me personally is that when the prior owner came in, one of the main issues was the fact that the main road was built in like the 1800s and had a deficient width. And I got to thinking, you know, how do you handle this? A person or, you know, a big rabbi passes and you got 500 people showing up to attend the ceremony. How do you like control the flow, not create a unsafe road condition, backup traffic, all those sorts of things, which I would think that the Tolman Fire Department would have a lot better ideas than Dan Kraushar.
I did give them a copy of the a submission for the planning board, and they did receive what was on for today's CDRC. So they are reviewing it, but I have not received anything as of yet.
Why is the fire department any better than maybe the police department?
Well, as a course of action, we always send everything to the Tolman Fire. I personally have never sent anything to the police department, but I can if that's something we deem needed.
No. Well, my point is, if Dan is concerned about, you know, emergency traffic, how do you deal with traffic on those occasions where a well-respected member of the community may be buried, and there are a lot of mourners that come out to pay their respects, and how do you deal with all that traffic? I guess that was your issue.
Well, it was part of my issue. The other part related to the emergency ingress and egress in the event of
fire.
I don't know, a car goes on fire there. Can the district, you know, maneuver in a safe manner in, and can they get people out?
Well, we're gonna have, unlike the other cemeteries that are close by, we're gonna have two forms of ingress and egress. We've got one road coming in, one road going out. We're not gonna have any structures there, so we don't need about the fire department getting access in to put out a fire. I don't know where you would get an emergency access coming out of this place, but none of the other cemeteries in the area, the Ascension Cemetery, the Gates of Zion Cemetery, have such a layout with an emergency access. So I don't know what the concern is. If a car gets on fire and the fire department's got to come put out the car fire,
well,
how would the other cars get out?
What about people parking on a road that is already substandard in terms of dimensions?
No,
Dan, can I interrupt? This is Sam Gertner. You raised a very good question, and we have already arranged in case of this type of scenario. God forbid if something happens to a great rabbi, and we don't have many. We're aiming on a particular person that we think is going to be buried here. We have arranged with the Vishnitz, which is on 306, the big school building, and on Elgin Road, that all traffic won't be car traffic. Everybody's going to have to go with their cars, park their cars at the big parking lots over there, and then be bussed in. And we have a special, I don't know if it was provided to you, but a nice plan how the buses will be coming in on Saddle River, make their U-turn, leave once the funeral is over. And the main funeral won't take place in this place. It will only be the burial, which is usually about an hour and a half to the most. So everybody will be bussed in. No cars will be allowed. We'll have Chaverim and police to direct everybody to, if somebody does get into Saddle, this is not a parking place. There's no way they're going to be parking over here. Everybody has to be parked at corner Maple and 306.
And that would be coordinated. That would also be coordinated with the Rampo police.
Yes, exactly. It was already spoken to them. So it's things that we are arranged if in case something happens, this is the way to do it.
So Paul,
we have no objection to doing that. Doing some sort of a traffic management plan to be approved by the police department. So in those circumstances where we know we may have a lot of mourners, we can call the police department and there'll be a plan in place to block off Hillside to mourners coming in. They will be notified where to park, and buses will come and drop people at the cemetery.
On corner Hillside and Saddle, buses will be dropping off people right there.
So can I make a recommendation? Put in it for now, make it simple, put in your narrative, both the fact that that you have a plan on getting mourners to the site using, this
Yeshiva Vishnitz building.
Right.
Parking lot. We sat with them when we arranged it.
And I forget what my second point was.
Emergency access.
No, that you'll do it all in coordination with the Rampo Police Department.
Correct. And also about the fire egress, we got a 20-foot road going into the cemetery, which leaves enough space for a car to go on fire and help to come in. I haven't seen any cemetery in this area has designed a 20-foot road.
No, I agree with you.
This is a beautiful, beautiful layout that we're trying to take away any options that we can be stuck with. So we're putting out a plan that nobody has ever done.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about your, how do I put this without getting myself into trouble? I don't think it's any mystery that you could open up a drive-in movie theater, which everyone would want. And you have certain people who live in that neighborhood who would find a reason to not be in favor of it. So the more we all think about potential problems and even better solutions, I think that covers all of us.
Okay. All right. So I think, so Valerie is telling us she had the issue of the well and suggested that we write the narrative addressing the well issues, which is a good point that we'll do. With regard to any other secret issues, other than traffic and public health issues with regard to the well, are there any other?
Well, you do have, I know you have the wetlands on site, and I know you are, looks like you're outside of any buffer areas, but I would like in the narrative again to highlight that as well.
And the usual address stormwater management. And then the only other thing you might want to address is lighting for potential nighttime use or early morning use. If you're going to have minimal levels of lighting that are perhaps on timers or something like that.
And Paul, did I hear you gratuitously offer to donate a small portion of the property for the village to use for a cell tower?
No, I don't think that came up in the discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have misunderstood.
Why is the village looking for a place for the cell tower?
Everyone's looking for a place for a cell tower.
Isn't that technology old yet? I mean, why do we still need cell towers?
I don't know, but they're still looking.
The SWIP, that's a good issue. Where is Dave? Dave, you want to discuss the ideas that you have for dealing with the stormwater and see which one might be the best one to approach? You're muted, Dave.
I'm trying to unmute him. I asked him to unmute. Dave, you got to unmute.
There I am.
There you go.
Thank you.
It's Dave Ziegler, and we were looking at a couple of ideas with the retention area. We're going to do the water quality. Vaid's online also, but we're going to do the water quality with the swale. And then we were going to request from the planning board to put an open retention in the front 100-foot buffer, our front setback, and integrate it within the large trees and then landscape it and use it as a buffer. So I guess when we talk to the planning board about buffers and setbacks, the front one, which is 100 foot and has several large trees, so we could locate the trees. We could put our roughly 10,000 square foot retention area in there and then re-landscape it for a better buffer. That's where we're at with the SWIP. And anything that's overflow from that, there's going to have to be a dedicated home run down to the stream, which is about 800 foot to the east. That's it.
What, if any, is the potential in the future for additional grave sites? Anyone have any idea?
Well, I mean, about 400 or 500 years, we might need some additional sections. No, I mean, we don't know. I mean, we've got 10,000 graves planned right here. Is there going to be a potential need to expand?
No, is there room?
Well, there's certainly room, but
there's plenty of room in the back for further expansion.
Yeah,
absolutely.
My question is actually, do you foresee the need for any type of structure? You know, because typically if you go into a cemetery, you go to the office and they direct you to where your loved one is buried so you could find the grave if you don't quite remember. So is there any need for a structure of any sort? You know, an office, a restroom facility, anything like that?
At this time, there is nothing planned.
Okay.
I mean, may there come a point in the future where they say maybe we want to have a little building so that we can conduct some on-site service prior to a burial? I don't know. Right now, nothing is planned other than to have it for burial plots.
Okay. So where do we go from here? Just to be clear on process.
Well, they already submitted for planning board. I'm waiting for comments from the agencies. Paul, if you're going to do a revised narrative, if any way possible, to get it to me for Friday, because I was putting the packets out for the board.
But before you do that though, Suzanne,
okay.
But Paul, it's more important that you actually have a complete narrative. So
that's what I'm saying. I need
right,
to
but
have
what
that.
I'm saying is, but all the issues that we brought up, that it's important that if you need to take the time to get resolution on those issues, I prefer that than to rush a narrative that we're just going to be responding saying you're still missing all these items that we've talked about.
Correct. So as of now, we just have sort of a conceptual layout, which looks great, but are we going to be getting full site plans shortly?
Dave?
After we receive the comments from the agencies, we would address the comments and finish the plans. The plans will be ready for the second meeting, but
okay.
Plans
so
that we have now are for the first meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because it would just be helpful, you know, in terms of the stormwater management. I'm not even familiar with the grading of this particular property. I'm sort of assuming most of it goes toward the back to the wetland pocket, but you'd mentioned that the stormwater management's coming to the front. So
yeah,
what the grading looks like.
Eve, we submitted a set of 5 plans. The second plan has grading on it.
Oh, I only have one sheet. No. I only have one layout. I have to then let me look through it and
that's the packet you picked up last night, your planning board packet.
Oh, I was looking at the electronic submission.
I did send it. You should have it electronically as well. It should be in there.
Okay, let me take a look. I only saw the one sheet.
Okay.
I saw a narrative in one sheet.
That was
so that's great. If you submitted it, that's great.
That was for today that Paul submitted last week to add to today's agenda.
Okay.
And then there was the planning submission.
So do you guys see any problem with doing a detention pond within the 100-foot front setback to Hillside Avenue and sort of landscaping it and using it to buffer the parking area from the roadway? Or is there some sort of prohibition about having that facility within that front setback?
I'd be more concerned with the fact that it's on a county road and
Hillside is a town road.
Yeah,
Hillside County, Saddle Rivers County.
It's your road. The village controls it.
Yeah, one side of Hillside, Dan, is town of Ramapo, the other is Airmont.
Okay, so I'm on the opposite side because I was thinking about the mikveh.
That's on the Ramapo side.
That's the other side of the road is the town of Ramapo and New Jersey, actually.
Yes.
Okay, because I was thinking, you know, mosquito control issues.
Actually, the Hillside is a town road. It looks like it's within the town.
Yes.
No, that's what everyone's saying.
A portion of it. Hillside changes jurisdictions, actually, I think 3 times.
Yes.
You have a portion of it is village, a portion of it is town, a portion of it is Bergen County.
That's correct.
Is it within 500 feet of Bergen County?
Yes.
That portion?
Yes. And I did send them the referral.
But Paul, to answer your question, it's sort of a contradiction to be able to put a detention basin into a buffer, because the purpose of the buffer is to plant vegetation to shield, especially that parking lot. So if Dave could be very creative and find vegetation that will be buffering, have a buffering value, and still be able to provide detention, that would be a clever use of the property. So I'm thinking it can be done, but it's going to take a lot of thought and design to pick the proper plants.
I'm creative, Eve.
I know you are.
Guess we're about to find out.
Okay, I guess let me come back to maybe the first point, the one that I sent my letter over, and I don't know whether anybody had a chance to consider it, but I'd be interested to hear your response to the suggestion that by making these interior roads some sort of pervious material, we can avoid the need to go to the ZBA for a variance on the development coverage.
Unfortunately, that's not the case.
You wouldn't agree with that. You would think that
no, the way the code was written is you may use the impervious material in terms of a stormwater management practice for pervious pavements and things like that. But the whole goal of that code was to maintain green space. So in this particular application, it's a little bit silly because you have tons of green space. So it doesn't really, how should I say, it wasn't really written for a project such as this one, but unfortunately it is written in the code that it's not only impervious or pervious material, it's green space. So the only thing I can suggest is, if you want to avoid the zoning board at this time, is maybe to phase it and only build the roads you need at this time, but that would be up to you.
I think anything beyond the parking area gets us into a problem.
Yeah, so I don't foresee you're going to have a problem with it, because 3% coverage is very nominal.
No, I don't think we're going to have a problem.
It's just the process. I know you're trying to avoid the process of going to the zoning board and the time it takes to go to the zoning board.
Yeah, and that was the only thought behind it. Even if we had to come back at some point in the future and pave it, but
yeah, no, it's not just the type of pavement, it's the fact that it's not green.
Yeah. Well, I think that's not the end of the world, because we did file for the ZBA. The planning board first is going to meet on April 22nd, which is next week, right?
Yes.
And then we have to come back to it again on the 25th. So as long as we can get our variances from the zoning board on May 13th, it really doesn't slow us down that much. So
when you say the 25th, oh, you mean May?
May, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay.
Well, Paul, again, I think just to be clear, that is the trajectory, right? But we clearly have to dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure everything, works with your proposed plan.
I understand that, and I wouldn't suggest anything less. I'm just saying that it is possible that if these things line up the way these dates work, if we've met all the requirements of the village and we've submitted all the documents that you need to be satisfied that we've addressed all impacts, and to be comfortable with the layout, and that the planning board is comfortable with the project, that we can get an approval. And that's what we're going to shoot for. And that's why we'd like to get as much information in, and all your suggestions today were very, very helpful with regard to getting an additional narrative in on these points regarding the well and the lighting and the SWIP and the wetlands, and the emergency traffic plan. And we will certainly do that, and the buffer. So, you know,
well, this all sounds great. This all sounds great, but let's not forget that this is all subject to public hearings.
Correct.
And many a curveball has been thrown at a public hearing.
Well,
Yeah.
it's May 27th, by the way, that a Thursday. You had the Tuesday. That's the next planning in May 27th, just for
Yes,
your.
that's right. I was looking at the wrong date.
That's okay. I just want to make sure you had the right date for your records.
So, okay.
Eve, can I ask one question on the pervious material?
Sure.
Is there anything that would be pervious and qualify as green that if we were able or willing to commit to, we would do that in the event we could not obtain the variance, and have the board, you know, state that sort of circumstance in their approval?
Not that I can think of right offhand.
So if it's pervious and green, that means it has to be vegetated?
Yes. Yeah. So I guess you have some different type of products out there now. I don't know how costly they may be, but one of them that comes to mind is sort of like a honeycombed heavy duty plastic that you could actually plant. Something like that. But what's your hesitation? I really don't.
I'm merely trying to see if there's not a way for us to manage the timing of getting the approval from the planning board.
So
that we know we have the right to do it if and when we have to, you know, go out there and start doing the first grave site.
Right.
Even if that means we're going to get a variance later for the work.
All right, that's why I was suggested maybe coming in with a phased plan so you could build what you need to build that's under the 3% right away. And if you have to come back to the zoning board later for the remainder of the roads, you can do that.
My personal feeling is, based on how Paul outlined the timing of these meetings, I don't really think you're losing anything by going to the ZBA.
Yeah, everything seems to be fast tracked and the schedule seems to work for you quite well.
Yeah, I mean.
And thank you. I've opened the planning board packet, so the plans are here, Dave.
Okay, other than, so we've talked about the impervious surface, we talked about the SWIP, we've talked about the well issue. Are there any other issues that the CDRC members see with our application that, you know, we should be prepared to address with the planning board?
Actually, Paul, can we circle back to the well? Now that I have Dave's plan in front of me, you'd mentioned that I have a possible well house on lot 4 that's a tide mend. That's way up front, so that guy looks okay. You'd mentioned it was Jeffrey and Susan Phillips that was potentially problematic.
Yes.
Okay. How about the guy, the bank in the back, the property that's owned by the bank? Lot 6 in the back?
We haven't found a well there. We foiled the county for information on that site, and they had no information. And if you look at the site, the well would probably have to be placed in front of the house somewhere, which would be well over 150 foot.
Okay, that's great. And then I see well
on... How do they get water?
Whether it's in front of the house or behind the house, you can still draw water.
Yeah, it's still their well.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still on their lot, Dan, so it would
All right.
be.
I misunderstood. I thought you said
Yeah.
you couldn't find a well, period.
Yeah.
No,
And then what about the fellow, what about the Cone property? It looks like that's lot 3, which is just to the west of the entry.
Yeah.
The long, narrow lot.
He's hill up.
Those two lots seem to have the well out front. There's evidence of that. There's also evidence that they're sharing a well, but either way, it's well over 150 foot, and
Okay,
it's uphill.
Right, so I think it'd be helpful if you identify the wells on a map and then specifically, again, document that they are, the distance they are away.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that small rectangular crosshatched area that looks like it's behind a shed of some sort is the well. That's why I wasn't sure what so the wells are specifically labeled possible well house? Because the guy on Jeffrey and Susan Phillips, I don't see it labeled, but I see that square designated.
No, okay, let's just back up. Phillips, we just located last week, and it's right behind the house, about 10 foot off the house. The box that's behind Phillips was actually their pool pump house, but they don't have a pool anymore.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
so
and the one out front on the right side, if you look at the property on the standing in the road, looking at the property on the right side, that one, that's where the well is. And that's more than 150 foot downhill from the site. The two other locations on the left side are uphill and more than 150 foot. And I don't want to be held to going onto somebody's property and locating a well. We cannot do that. We can go on property to do a boundary, but we have to ask permission to go on property to locate a well. So we've tried, we're working on it, but if we can't get it, it's not possible to get. We're going to have to just go with the observation.
Or, I don't know how accurate the health department records are. As you mentioned, some of them are available, some of them are not.
Yeah, we foiled for all the neighbors, and Mr. Hornberger answered and said he had no evidence or no mapping or no direction on where the wells were. So,
do you have a license to fly a drone?
What's a drone have to do with a well? If we stand 50 foot in front of a property and can't see the well, a drone's not going to find it either.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you could just label them, as Valerie noted, label them whatever you determine.
Right.
That would be very helpful for all of us.
My instinct is when this COVID relieves itself a little bit, that Liz will be back in the office more and she can help us out. But right now, she just doesn't have the ability to do everything.
Yeah, I know they're very, very limited on their available time.
But we'll take your suggestions and follow up on them.
That's great. Thank you.
Anything else, Valerie? Do you have any other issues with regard to SECRA that you might want us to look at?
No, none at this time.
Okay. Going back to the access onto the road, did you do any kind of analysis for site distance yet, Dave?
I don't know if Harry Baker did, but we did not. But we will.
Okay, and same thing, turning radius. I mean, I don't imagine you're just going to have standard vehicles coming in and out. I guess the biggest thing would probably be a plow truck in the winter, and that's about it, right?
Right. Well, the radiuses meet the code for fire, but we'll also add that to the map so you could see what we're doing.
Other than lighting in the parking area, would you be looking for? I mean, I don't know if we need any lighting at all because the grounds are going to be closed from sundown till sunrise. Sam, were you planning on putting in any lighting? You muted yourself, Sam.
Not this minute. We may, I don't want to uphold any plans because of that. So we may end up putting in lighting, but that's not like the necessity. It's not, the place can operate without lighting too.
Do you have a requirement from
No.
the village that we show any lighting, Eve or Valerie?
Oh, we don't need it. So if they need.
Well, it's just a matter of, safety, pedestrian and visitor safety. So typically a parking lot would need basic low-level lighting. It could certainly go out. It could be, timed or set only to be on when in use. But it's really just a matter of safety for people visiting the site. So if you're saying that it doesn't.
What about a 4:30 funeral in December?
No, that's just it. I was under the impression that there were ceremonies and funerals, as needed, even during darkness. And people certainly go to pray sometimes over their loved one when it may be after dark. So it was really just a matter of safety. We certainly don't want to have a very brightly illuminated cemetery.
Yeah, I mean, the cemetery, I mean, they're not going to schedule a burial at 4 o'clock in the evening in the wintertime. And the cemetery is closed after sundown. So it's not like they want to invite people to come.
Mm-hmm.
People shouldn't be coming to the cemetery after dark.
Mm-hmm.
Most cemeteries that I know also have that sort of restriction that they're closed from sundown till sun up. But we will certainly look into it, and based upon what our needs are, we'll show them. But are you going to mandate us to show them if our determination is we don't feel we need any lighting?
You would need a waiver from the planning board because it is a design standard, but with explanation, that would be a waiver that could be granted.
Put that in your narrative.
Or we can just place it.
Yeah, it would specifically be for the parking lot, certainly not all the interim little walking paths throughout the whole cemetery.
Okay.
And typically you would like your highest level of lighting, of course, at the exit or entrance driveway, just for safety for vehicles coming in and out onto the road.
Okay. All right, very good.
And one last item. If you are planning to have any signage, maybe identify where that's located and provide the details to it.
Okay. All right.
See you next week.
Greg, do you have anything or Dave?
I'm all set.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. See you soon.
Right,
Thank
bye.
you.
Okay, the next application for today is for Mr. Rubin, 48-50 South Airmont Road, for proposed lot line change and subdivision. And I believe we have the applicant's engineer on, Rachel Baris.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Rachel.
So I think everybody remembers when this project was before the planning board because of the trees that were taken down when they did their pool. In the interim now, the owner has purchased the adjoining lot that is on Airmont Road, and he is looking to change the lot line so that the larger lot would become larger. He would gain additional square footage, but the front lot would stay, the front house would stay, that the houses are not changing or anything. I provided the information for the bulk table. There are variances, but they are all based on existing conditions. So the lot width, we don't have enough for 160 on both lots. It doesn't add up. So on the existing, the larger lot, which is lot 35, the lot existing is narrower than the 160, and in the proposed condition is also less than 160. And then for lot 36, which is the smaller lot, the existing house has a front setback of about 14 feet. We're not proposing to change the house, so it would stay as 14 feet. We held for the side property line, we took an offset from the building, from the existing building, and held that 25 feet so that the sides were maximized. And we are proposing to relocate their driveway from the existing northern side of their house to the south side of their house so that there is more room for the larger lot. But it's just a lot, it's really just a lot line change.
I just had a couple of questions. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna ask if any easements for were required, or are they separate driveways?
No, they have separate driveways. There is an existing 50-foot right-of-way that goes along the existing property line. So now that full 50-foot right-of-way will be on the larger lot. And that deduction was taken for the net lot area.
So that easement will be eliminated?
It's not, it wasn't to share their driveway. It's like listed as a existing right-of-way, and it goes out to, I guess it was so that in the future, if it continues onto the lot behind them towards Hampton Road. So I guess that if they, I don't know who it's even to, this was from prior maps, it's not anything new. So we're just leaving it exactly the same, not touching it. Just included it for the deductions for the lot area.
I believe there were utilities located within it as well.
Okay, Lou had to leave. He had to go to take care of something with an inspection. He said he couldn't stay past 12, just so you all know.
So I think, Rachel, in terms of your narrative, I just think a little bit more information on that right of way, and just to make sure that it's not going to cause any problems with the neighboring property. And then also it's, you know, not that you have to explain the reason for the subdivision, but it really, if there's a little bit more clarification as to the reasoning for it, that would be helpful to, I think, to the planning board. To a larger extent.
Honestly, it's just he wants to have a larger lot, and he bought both of them so that he can make his lot bigger. Do you want me to write that? I mean, that's,
yeah. I mean, I think just an explanation as to, right, because when I was looking at the plans, I was trying to figure out like what's the, you know, what are the reasons, and just, you know,
make it bigger.
And I think that's also going to, you know, because the zoning board's going to ultimately, I know they're existing variants, I mean, technically existing conditions, but it would be helpful just to have that information provided.
Yeah, I mean, so when we picked where the lot line was, we made sure that we kept the lot area that was required on the smaller lot. and tried to maximize the size of the larger lot. And again, wanted to keep the house. There's nothing wrong with the house. There's no reason to take it down just for the sake of taking it down. The house we're keeping it as it is. So that was really the holding factor as to where the lines even fell, was to take 25, hold the side setback off of the existing house. But just to make it bigger.
Rachel, did the other project finish? I know Lou had asked about that, but he's not.
I do not actually, that was my question too.
Okay, I don't believe that they got a final CO on it. I don't know what role that plays in how this proceeds.
Are there any violations on it now?
That I don't think that there's any violations. I think they got that cleared up. They just slowed down.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's going to be a Lou question then, because I know there was a lot of activity on that lot in the past.
Okay. I'll just put it in the record and he could bring it up at planning.
Or maybe Lou can look into it. He could search his, his files.
I'll let him know on the side because he got to leave.
Right.
Okay.
Valerie, do you have any other questions? You're good? All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Rachel, my only concern, so when I looked at the property, it seemed that the parking area that's currently, I'll call it to the left side of the house, was much larger than what you're proposing on the right side of the house. And since it is on Airmont Road and there isn't any parking on Airmont Road and you're not allowed to back out onto Airmont Road, it didn't seem that you had enough of a parking area and turnaround area proposed on the right side. But when I looked at it, I saw, any vegetation to be removed. And I believe there was a well on that property. So I didn't know how that played.
The well is in the front. And so I kind of kept it narrow to come in so that they don't touch the well. And then there was room for 2 cars and was I can extend the backup area a little bit more. I can add a 3rd space if you think that would be helpful.
Well, in terms of realistically providing parking for the dwelling, it looked like there were about 4 cars that could park there now. Is it a single family or is it a 2-family?
It's a single family home.
It's a single family. But as I said, my concern is that since it's on Airmont Road, there isn't any other place to park. So I think providing sufficient parking is going to be very important, and having people be able to turn around on site and enter going forwards. The county is going to weigh in on that.
Okay.
Since it is a county road. And since you're moving the driveway, I don't know if you evaluated sight lines from the new position of the driveway.
We didn't provide them specifically. I've been out there. I didn't measure them, but it's not very far off. So we were able to see, but I can go and do the measurements.
Right, just to put it on the plan so we have a sight line, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if it was required for a single family residence.
Well, whenever you're changing, it's more so because it's a county road. Okay. There's a lot of activity. If it was a local road, I know it is a sort of a straight run there, but unfortunately on the county roads especially, people tend to drive a lot faster.
Well, here it's pretty narrow, so I think you might actually, they may not be.
It's a traffic calming, huh?
Yeah, just make it really narrow and then we have to slow down because otherwise. Okay, so I'll just check the sight distance. Is there anything else?
No, that's it. Just, the number of spaces it can accommodate, the ability to turn around, sight lines, avoid the well. I don't know if you're avoiding trees there, the large tree.
Okay.
That's pretty big tree there. What's it, a large sycamore?
I like your cat, Valerie.
My cat's sleeping.
get to have visitors.
And then in terms of 48, I noticed there was sort of like a garden or something there in that little piece of the property. Does he have any plan for what he's going to do with the front of the property, or it's just going to be part of his lot and it's going to be a landscaped area to enhance his frontage?
I think he wants to just put up a fence around his property and 2 stone pillars in the front along his driveway, and then just grass and landscaped, but nothing, no.
Yeah, keep it out of the right of way.
Yes, it is.
Well, yeah, remember you have now 2 right-of-ways. You have the right-of-way of Airmont Road and you have the right-of-way of that 50 feet that's going into the property. So we may need to evaluate that a little bit more.
Okay,
so what purpose that's really serving.
It is shown on this plan. I can label it better.
Yeah, I saw it there, but do you have the plat, the original plat of this area that showed why this right-of-way was even, you know, many years ago proposed? I was trying to follow it to see where it ended. And as you mentioned, it goes to the lot behind this little lot. But I thought they had access from the public right-of-way behind that. I don't have the map in front of me. I don't.
Yeah, so it's like on filed map 4774.
All right, I can pull that and take a look at it. I'm just curious.
I'll email it to you just to make it easier because I have it.
Okay.
And it shows, like, it doesn't really explain it. It just says,
yeah,
50-foot wide right of way. And it goes out. It was like, goes out to Airmont, I guess, in case they wanted to connect Hampton to Airmont, but I mean, it doesn't seem like it would have
any purpose today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
It's like a holdover from.
When we looked at 48, I thought, and I'd have to go back and talk to Lou, I thought there were utilities running in there, but even if there are, not to say we need 50 feet, you know, even if there were utilities, perhaps we could live with 20 feet, but.
Okay.
Just curious to see what the initial purpose was.
Right. I think more information on that right-of-way I think is important.
Yeah.
Because if for some reason it also gives certain rights to the neighboring property.
Correct.
We need to know that as well.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. I'll see if we can find more information, but I'm sending you, Valerie, do you want the 2 file maps also?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we had them anyways, so we might as well, rather than go searching.
Thank you.
So what's their next step? Do they have to come back to CDRC? That's my question.
I don't need them to for any reason.
No.
So they can make these changes and submit for planning?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and as Valerie noted, you know, just enhance or strengthen the narrative a little bit.
Okay.
Rachel, for planning board, just to give you an idea, April 23rd is the deadline for the May 27th to get the mailings out. If not, May 21st for the June 24th meeting.
Okay, hold on. April 23rd for?
May 27.
Okay. And then
May 21st for June 24th.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we all set?
I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
have a great day. Talk to everybody.
Bye.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay, we're done then. Do we have anything more to discuss?
Nope. I'm going to shut this off. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Aye.